One message, and everything changed. All you do is take. I left. No warnings, no drama. But what happened when they realized the truth? You won't believe how they tried to pull me back. My name is Eric. I'm 29, and until last year, I thought I understood what family meant, not the Hallmark card version, but the kind you build your life around, even if it means carrying more than your share of the weight. I've always been the quiet one, the responsible son, the one who sends flowers on birthdays and picks up the slack when nobody else even notices there's slack. But I didn't grow up thinking I'd be the backbone of a family that constantly made me feel like I was disposable. That part happened slowly, almost quietly, like right under the floorboards. You don't see it until it all caves in. Growing up, I was the middle child. My older brother, Adam, was the golden boy, varsity football, charming, always with a crowd around him. My younger sister, Mia, was the princess from the moment she was born. And me? I was the one who got B+ grades and was told I wasn't living up to my potential. I didn't mind, really. I kept my head down, got a scholarship, moved out, and eventually started my own small IT firm that, by some miracle, took off after 3 grueling years of ramen, 16-hour days, and getting ghosted by every investor I pitched to. The funny thing is, when I was struggling, they were silent. But when the money came in, that's when I became family again. It started small. My dad asked if I could help cover the remainder of Adam's car payments, just until he gets promoted. Then came Mia's private college tuition only because the financial aid didn't cover enough. My mom needed help with the roof repairs, then the heating system, then the kitchen remodel she'd always dreamed of. And just like that, I was paying for 3 households and still getting texts like, "Can you VMO me for the groceries?" At first, I didn't mind. I was grateful I could help. I even convinced myself I was building something, a legacy, maybe. I figured one day I'd be able to look back and say I made life better for the people I loved. But something about the way they treated it like it was owed, like I wasn't doing anything special, started eating at me. Last Thanksgiving was the turning point. I hosted, not because I wanted to show off, but because I finally had a home big enough to seat everyone. I had it catered, cleaned, set up a fire pit in the backyard. Nobody offered to help, not even with dishes. Adam made a toast halfway through, talking about how lucky we are to have each other and how family always comes through, never once mentioning the fact that I paid for the whole thing. Mia brought her new boyfriend and barely looked up from her phone. And my dad? He spent the entire evening talking about how things were tougher in his day and how kids now have it easy. I swallowed it all with a smile, but inside, I was already pulling away. Then came the night that unraveled it. It was a random Tuesday, maybe 2 months later. I had just finished a long meeting and came home to a voice message from my dad. His voice was clipped, tired, and sharp in the way only dads know how to be. He said, "All you do is take. You've never given this family anything worth remembering. If you had any pride, you'd stop acting like we owe you something and just leave." It stunned me for a second. I thought I misheard it, so I played it again. "All you do is take." I didn't yell. I didn't call back. I just stared at the message for a while, then walked over to the window and looked out at the city lights. I used to love them. Something inside me gave out quietly, like an old hinge snapping under weight. I packed a bag that night and left. No dramatic goodbye, no announcement. I even let my assistant know to pause all outgoing payments tied to family accounts. Just a clean, silent break. 3 days went by, then a week. Radio silence. No one called. No one texted. It took them almost a full month to notice. Mia was the first. She called me late one Friday night. Her voice shaky. "Eric, hey, I just logged into the school portal, and my tuition didn't go through this month. Did something happen with the account?" I could hear the panic she was trying to smother with that fake casual tone you use when you're trying not to sound desperate. I replied with just one text, "Thought I never gave this family anything." No follow-up. No explanation. Just that. She didn't respond. But within the hour, I had 4 missed calls from my mom, 2 from Adam, and 1 from a number I didn't recognize. The voicemail from my dad? Hilarious in a dark way. "Eric, we need to talk. Whatever this little stunt is, it's not funny. Your sister's future is on the line." No apology. Just demands. Just that same old tone that said, "You owe us." That weekend, I flew to Denver. I'd never been, but I needed somewhere far enough to feel like I'd escaped orbit. I stayed in a small Airbnb overlooking the mountains. I slept better than I had in years, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't check my email. I didn't open any messages. I let the world spin without me, and back home, that's when it all started falling apart. Mia's school sent a notice of pending withdrawal due to non-payment. Adam's car was repossessed. My parents' mortgage payment bounced. And just like that, the foundation they built on my silence cracked wide open. They started reaching out to extended family, telling their version of events, how I cut them off out of nowhere and abandoned my responsibilities. But the thing is, you can't rewrite a story when too many people already know the truth. A few of my cousins, they knew. They'd seen the pattern for years. I got a message from one of them, Emma, my mom's niece. She said, "I've always admired how patient you are, but I'm glad you finally stopped being their safety net." That message hit harder than I expected, because the truth is, I didn't want revenge. I wanted peace. But once you take away the thing they used to control you, once they realize they need you more than you ever needed them, that's when the real unraveling begins. I spent a week in Denver, mostly doing nothing. I'd walk to a little coffee shop near the Airbnb every morning, journal for a bit, then wander around downtown just to remind myself what uninterrupted silence felt like. No buzzing phone. No obligation. No one asking, "Can you just do me one more favor?" It was strange at first, how foreign that calm felt. Like I had to unlearn the habit of bracing for someone else's disappointment. By the second week, I'd rented a car and driven out to Boulder. I hiked alone. Something I'd always wanted to do but never got around to because every time I planned a trip, someone in the family needed a bailout, broken AC, a late credit card. Mia once called me from a resort in Cancun saying she lost her wallet and needed me to wire her emergency cash. That memory popped into my head as I stood at the edge of a cliff trail, wind cutting through my jacket, the entire valley stretched out below me. I laughed out loud. Really laughed. It echoed off the rocks. It took 3 full weeks before my mom broke the silence with something more than passive-aggressive voicemails. She emailed me. The subject line, "We need you to come home." No greeting, just a long block of text that started with, "I don't know what's gotten into you," and spiraled into, "Your father is furious." Then, "We've done so much for you." And ended with, "Family doesn't abandon family." I stared at it for a long time. Family doesn't abandon family? Except they did. Every time they made me feel like a debit card with a heartbeat. Every birthday they forgot. Every time they took money from me without a thank you. Every holiday where I sat in the background while Adam gave his speeches and Mia got showered in gifts. They didn't call it abandonment. They called it tradition. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the email to my lawyer, Daniel, who'd helped me set up a trust fund years ago. I told him to start the process of transferring the remaining educational payments to a scholarship program for first-gen college students, the ones who actually needed help. The ones who wouldn't laugh behind my back while draining my bank account. I also asked him to look into who was listed on the deed for the lake house. The one my parents used every summer, paid off in full by me, under the false promise that it would be a shared family investment. Turns out, my name was still on the paperwork. So, I made a decision. That Sunday morning, I booked a flight back home. Not to reconcile, not to be guilt, but to collect receipts. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. I landed around noon, picked up a rental, and drove straight to the house. The same house I helped renovate when Dad threatened to sell it unless someone paid to fix the water damage. It looked the same, familiar and fake, like a movie set built to look like home. As I pulled up the driveway, I saw Adam's old pickup parked outside. I figured he moved back in after the repo. I didn't knock. I walked in with the spare key my mom forgot I had. The moment I stepped into the living room, I heard voices. "He's being dramatic," Adam was saying. "He'll come crawling back once he gets over himself." Mia's voice followed, quieter, "I just don't get why he's doing this. I mean, it's not that much money to him, is it?" My dad grumbled something I couldn't quite make out. Then, loud and clear, "Eric's always been the weakest. Hiding behind his computer, acting like money makes him special." I stood there in the hallway, unseen, as they continued tearing me apart, like I wasn't the reason the lights were on. I didn't cry. I didn't storm in. I didn't even feel anger, just confirmation. They never saw me. Not really. I backed out quietly and drove to the lake house. I walked through the front door, took one long look at the open-plan kitchen, the wall of family photos that didn't include a single one of me, and started snapping pictures for the real estate listing. By nightfall, my lawyer had everything he needed to initiate the sale. The sale went through faster than I anticipated. By the time I landed back in the city, Daniel had already contacted me with the confirmation that the house was officially on the market. My parents, of course, were furious. They'd tried to fight it, claiming they had emotional equity in the property, but it didn't matter. They couldn't stop the process. They had no more power over me. I thought that would be the end of it, but I was wrong. My phone blew up with messages, mostly from Mia and Adam, accusing me of being heartless, of abandoning them when they needed me the most. I read their texts, but I didn't respond. I couldn't. Part of me wanted to lash out, to tell them everything, but I knew it wouldn't do any good. The truth was, I was done. And no matter how much they begged, no matter how much they tried to manipulate me with guilt, I wasn't going to let them pull me back into their web. But as much as I tried to block them out, there was still this lingering doubt. Was I wrong? Had I made the right choice by cutting them out? Would I ever be able to look back and not feel the weight of all those years? I kept telling myself that this was for the best, that I was reclaiming my life, but those moments of doubt crept in every now and then, gnawing at the edges of my peace. That's when the phone call came. It was my dad. I hadn't heard his voice in weeks, and when I saw his name pop up on my screen, I almost didn't answer. But something inside me urged me to pick it up. I wasn't sure what I expected. Part of me thought he might apologize, but another part of me braced for the anger I knew would be there. Eric, his voice came through, low and measured. We need to talk. There was no anger, no blame. Just, calm. I hesitated. About what? I asked, my voice guarded. He sighed, and I could hear him take a deep breath. I know things have been complicated between us. But I want to talk about what happened. I want to understand why you did what you did. His tone was softer than I'd expected. For the first time in years, he didn't sound like the man who always thought he knew what was best for me. I did it because I couldn't keep living like that, I said, the words coming out before I could stop them. I was never enough for you, for any of you. You all just took, and I gave. I wasn't allowed to be myself, to be anything but what you needed me to be. I let out a shaky breath, realizing I was finally saying the things I'd been holding in for years. There was a long silence on the other end. I wasn't sure if he was going to speak again. But then, his voice came through, quieter, almost tentative. I didn't know you felt that way, he said. I thought I was helping you, teaching you. But I see now that I missed something important. I didn't listen. I didn't see you. His words hung in the air, heavy and unfamiliar. I wasn't sure how to respond. For so long, I had wanted him to acknowledge what I'd been through, what I'd sacrificed. And now, here it was. But it didn't feel like the victory I thought it would. It felt like a small, hollow victory, like a piece of a puzzle finally falling into place, but not the whole picture. I don't know if I can forgive you, I said quietly. I don't know if I ever will. I meant it, but there was something in my voice that I hadn't expected. It wasn't just bitterness or anger. There was something else, something softer. A recognition that maybe, just maybe, I didn't need to forgive him to move on. Maybe I didn't need to forgive them at all. I understand, he replied after a long pause. I just wanted you to know that I see you now. And I'm sorry. The words felt strange coming from him. But they were enough. The conversation ended shortly after that. I didn't feel elated. I didn't feel like I had achieved something monumental. It was more like I had just crossed a threshold. And for the first time, I felt like I could breathe again. It wasn't the end of the story. It wasn't some grand conclusion. But it was the beginning of something new. I didn't know what that was yet, or where it would lead, but I knew that I was finally free. And for now, that was enough. The days that followed felt surreal. I was slowly beginning to realize that I didn't need their approval anymore. For so long, I had lived in the shadow of my family's expectations, sacrificing parts of myself to keep the peace, to maintain some semblance of connection. But now, I was learning to stand on my own. I wasn't the son they expected, the one who always picked up the slack. I wasn't their safety net anymore. And it felt liberating. But the guilt, that damn guilt, still lingered. Some nights, when the silence felt too heavy, I'd question if I'd done the right thing. Did I make the wrong choice by cutting ties? Should I have fought harder to fix things, to make them see me for who I truly was? It was hard not to wonder if I had been too quick to walk away. My dad's apology, however reluctant, still weighed on me. Was I really justified in severing all ties? Or had I been too harsh? I kept myself busy. Work was a constant hum in the background, but it didn't fill the space I had left behind. I started picking up hobbies I had long abandoned, things I had never made time for while I was busy trying to keep my family happy. I took up photography, something I had always loved, but had put on hold. Slowly, my world began to expand in a way it hadn't before. I wasn't looking for approval anymore. I wasn't living for them. Yet, there were moments when I still felt like I was carrying them around with me. The guilt, the uncertainty, the fear of being alone, those old feelings crept up on me, sometimes when I least expected it. It was like I had conditioned myself to take on their burdens, to always be the one who made the sacrifices. It wasn't easy to break that pattern. But then, out of nowhere, Mia called me. I hadn't heard from her since the email, and I wasn't sure I was ready for whatever this conversation would be. She apologized. It was soft at first, careful, like she was testing the waters to see if I'd snap or shut her down. But then it turned into something more. She admitted that she had seen things differently, that she had misunderstood what I was doing for them. She even said that she was sorry for what she had put me through. The apology didn't feel like a victory, but it felt like a crack in the wall I'd built. It wasn't about fixing everything at once, but maybe, just maybe, it was a start. A few days later, I received a message from my dad. I didn't know what to expect. After everything that had happened, I wasn't sure if this was going to be another demand or if it was the beginning of a genuine effort to reconnect. I didn't open it right away. Part of me wanted to shut the door for good, to keep them out of my life. But there was another part of me, the part that had spent years trying to make them proud, wondering if I was really doing the right thing by pushing them away. I opened the message. It was short, to the point. I know I failed you, Eric. I know I didn't always make the right choices. But I want you to know I'm proud of you. I always have been. If you're open to it, I'd like to try again. I'm here when you're ready. The words hit harder than I expected. There was a weight in them, not just an apology but an acknowledgement of what I had been through. A part of me wanted to rush back in, to fix everything, but another part of me knew better. I didn't have to rush. I didn't owe them anything. I needed time. I sat with the message for hours, wondering what this would mean for me, for my future. Could I ever forgive them? Should I? Or was this just another manipulation disguised as an olive branch? I didn't have the answers. But I knew one thing, I wasn't going back to the old pattern. I wasn't going to fall back into the role I had played for so long. I needed time to figure this out. A week passed, and I found myself going back and forth on whether or not to reply. I could feel the pull of the past, the temptation to return to the family I had known, the one I had grown up with. But I also felt the pull of my own independence, the freedom I had found when I walked away. I didn't want to lose that sense of control, that ability to stand on my own. It wasn't until I found myself staring at the city skyline one night, realizing how much I had changed, how much I had grown, that I knew what I had to do. I couldn't go back to being the person they expected me to be. I had to stay true to the person I was becoming. I sat down the next morning and wrote a response to my dad. I told him that I appreciated his message, but that I needed more time. I wasn't ready to dive back into the past. I told him that I had to focus on myself, that I needed to figure out who I was outside of the family. And I told him that maybe, just maybe, we could talk again in the future, but not yet. I didn't expect him to respond right away, and he didn't. But a few days later, I received a simple message: "Take care of yourself, Eric." And that was it. No demands, no guilt trips. Just a quiet acceptance. I had finally found peace. It wasn't the kind I had expected, the kind that came with an apology or a dramatic reconciliation. It was the peace of knowing I could stand on my own, of knowing I didn't need their approval to live my life. It was the peace of finally realizing that I was enough just as I was. A few months passed, and with each day, I felt further removed from the person I had been. The person who was always trying to please, trying to make everyone else happy. The freedom, though quiet, was becoming louder inside me. I wasn't constantly checking my phone, wondering if I had missed a call from Mia or Adam. I wasn't lying awake at night thinking about how to fix things. I was no longer in the position of trying to mend what was broken. I was simply living. And that was something I hadn't known in years. I kept working on my business, focusing on growth and expansion. It wasn't glamorous or earth-shattering, but it felt like I was building something solid, something that was mine. And every small success, every new client, felt like another brick in the foundation of my independence. But then, just when I thought I was completely free of their reach, I received a call from Emma, the only person in my family who had remained neutral. She was always the one who saw through the facade, the one who never tried to control me or put me in a box. Her voice was soft when she spoke, like she was hesitant to bring it up, but I could hear the urgency beneath it. "Eric, I need to tell you something," she said. "Mia, she's in trouble. She's dropped out of school. She's been dealing with some personal stuff, and it's affecting her grades and her mental health. I don't know what to do. She's been asking for you. She needs help." I sat in silence for a long time, letting the words sink in. Mia, the same person who had twisted the truth and manipulated the narrative, the one who had played the victim, was now asking for help? It felt surreal. I didn't know what to feel. Part of me wanted to help. I knew how hard it was to be in that place, to feel lost and isolated. But another part of me wondered if this was just another attempt to pull me back into their web, to use me when they needed something. Is she sorry? I asked, my voice quieter than I intended. Emma paused before answering. I think she is. But she's also scared. She doesn't know how to fix things. I think she's finally realizing how much she's messed up. The silence that followed was thick with the weight of all the years of resentment. Could I really forgive her? Could I help her when she had never truly seen what she had done? I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if I even wanted to. But I knew I couldn't keep running from the reality of who she was, of who they all were. I don't know what to do, I admitted. I need to think about it. Emma didn't push. She knew how complicated it was. I understand, she said. But just know, Eric, that you're the only person she's reached out to. She's not asking for money. She's asking for someone to listen, for someone to help her figure it out. I spent the rest of the night thinking about it. Mia, my sister, the one who had always been wrapped up in her own world, who had never cared about the sacrifices I had made for her, was now reaching out. Was this a sign that things could change? Was this the moment when things could finally be repaired? The next morning, I made a decision. I called Mia. She answered on the first ring, her voice shaky, like she wasn't sure what to say. I took a deep breath and just listened. And for the first time, she didn't make excuses. She didn't try to justify anything. She just told me how lost she felt, how everything was falling apart. She was crying by the end of it, and I could hear the desperation in her voice. She apologized. She told me she understood what I had done for her, for the family, and how she had taken it all for granted. I don't expect you to forgive me, she said, her voice cracking. But I just need you to know I'm sorry. I don't know how to fix things, but I know I need help. For the first time in a long time, I felt the weight of all my anger and resentment start to lift. It wasn't gone, not by a long shot, but it felt like a piece of the puzzle had shifted into place. I wasn't sure if I could forgive her. I wasn't sure if I could even trust her again. But in that moment, I realized that sometimes, the hardest thing to do is to give people a chance to change. I'll help you, I said, my voice steady. But you have to help yourself first. I can't fix everything for you, but I'll be here if you really want to make things right. And just like that, things began to shift. I wasn't sure where this would lead, or how long it would take, but I knew that this was the beginning of something new. Maybe forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. Maybe it meant giving someone the chance to show that they had truly changed. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough.